1.4 million jobs will disappear. Brace yourself. In this episode, I'm going to address why Biden's proposals will cause higher unemployment and a recession is on its way. So my name's Doug Andrew, and I've been helping people optimize their financial assets, minimize taxes for more than 4.5 decades. Back in 2005, I actually let all of my professional licenses automatically expire on the last business day of 2005 to become a consumer advocate, to help people like you optimize their assets, minimize taxes. And I began to write books. I've been so blessed. I've had 11 bestsellers thus far. And also, I started a national radio show. I've done a lot of TV educational programs. And so this is about you, and I'm very concerned about your future. So as we continue, I want to explain why Biden's proposals, they haven't all passed yet, but I'm pretty sure they're going to get through Congress because they are in his favor, are going to dramatically and negatively impact Americans, and it's going to take them by surprise perhaps. We will see unemployment go up. We will see a recession, mark my word, because the very things that he is proposing will cause those negative effects to take place in this great country. And I love this country. I do not like seeing people suffer because of short-sighted proposals where we try to help people out or stimulate the economy and we spend all this money, and then what happens? Unemployment goes up, recessions go down, people are hurting, they're looking for work, and we go, why did that happen? You need to understand basic economics. So let me give you some insights. Now, this isn't a political agenda here, but whenever I speak throughout America, I always ask my audiences, would you prefer that I be honest or gentle? And they say, honest. Okay. So what's happening right now is we have a lot of proposals and tax policy and government spending that is somewhat out of control. And the government sometimes doesn't realize the long-term effect of that irresponsible spending and printing of money. Because if they don't have the money, they end up trying to print money, and that causes inflation. So what's been happening? Ever since Joe Biden ran for president, he began to announce some of his proposals because he wanted to get elected. And of course, when he announced things like, I'm going to provide more health care for everybody, and of course we have agendas, well, let's have Medicare for all. I'm going to pass student loan forgiveness. Now, a lot of those wanted to have $50,000 forgiven. He started out with just $10,000 of student loans, but there's a lot of proposals out there for free college tuition, healthcare, Medicare for all. Now, the Congressional Budget Office and the General Accountability Office of the United States has estimated that each of those two proposals, Medicare for all and free college tuition, would cost the government about $100 trillion each in the next 10 years. So if you divide 100 trillion by 10, that's 10 trillion a year the government needs in addition to the 5 trillion they already spend. Wait a minute. That's 3 times the amount of money that they bring in right now. Where's the money going to come from? They can't just tax the rich 95 or 100% and come up with that. That wouldn't even scratch the surface. So what ends up happening? Oftentimes, the government finds itself scrambling, and so they print money. Now, if you don't understand, when the government prints more money to be able to cover this, we have a flood of currency, and then that takes the value of goods and services. The purchasing power of the dollar goes down, the cost of living goes up. And pretty soon, you need twice as much money to be able to have the same gallons of gas and loaves of bread that you could have bought just 7 years earlier, because double-digit inflation is on the way. What else happens is When people can't afford to be able to live and employers cannot afford some of these initiatives, they begin to lay off people. In fact, we saw a lot of business owners prepare for that just when Biden announced that he wanted to raise the minimum wage across the board to $15 an hour. So they began to make plans to lay off about 30% of their basic workforce, and they wanted to switch to automation. What's that going to do? That is going to cause unemployment to go through the roof. We know from studies that just the minimum wage raising to $15 an hour will likely cost 1.4 million jobs in America. How sad is that? We work so hard to be able to get people working, but with a stroke of a pen on a short-sighted proposal to raise the minimum wage, we're going to kill 1.4 million jobs just like that. We need to rethink our thinking. So what should you be doing, and how can you protect yourself as we head this direction in America, unfortunately? Before I share with you what I would recommend, if this is intriguing you and you can think of somebody who ought to watch this episode, be sure and share, like, subscribe to this channel, and stay with me to the end because I want to gift you a copy of my most recent best-selling book. It's called The Laser Fund. It's 300 pages of information that will help you become immune from taxes going up because they're going to go through the roof. Inflation, eroding away your purchasing power, and market volatility, because all three of those are huge dangers that are a result of irresponsible government spending and the printing of money. Now, let's talk about what happens when we have government spending a lot of money that they don't have. They then have to raise taxes substantially, and this is why President Biden has all kinds of ways that he wants to increase taxes on income, on capital gains, on inheritance tax. And he is talking about dramatic increases. He wants to double the capital gains tax from 20% up to 39.6% and do away with the step up in basis on long-term capital gains. This is going to cost a lot of children who inherit properties from their parents. They're going to have to pay through the nose in order to inherit that property or that highly appreciated asset. Also, the inheritance tax he wants to take from 40% up to 67%. That's a 50% increase. Folks, I want to empower you to be able to make yourself immune from taxes, inflation, and market volatility. So here's what you can do. As you learn how to set aside your serious cash for your future, whether it's for retirement, maybe college funding for your children, or maybe it's for your grandchildren, or if you're a business owner and the working capital in your business, maybe you own real estate and you're managing real estate. Or maybe you have emergency funds sitting in the bank, but it's only earning less than 1%, and inflation is going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I am firmly of the belief that we're going to head for double-digit inflation. So you can't be rowing upstream at the rate of 1 or 2 miles an hour in a bank account, 1 or 2% interest, when the current of inflation is coming down at 5, 10, even 15%, because we could see that kind of inflation in the future because of all of this stimulus spending and these initiatives that are on the docket with all the stimulus spending and these other huge initiatives that they want to see passed, such as Medicare for all or forgiveness of student loans or free college tuition. Folks, we don't have the money. It would be like a couple making $100,000 a year, but they keep spending $200,000 or $300,000. We're talking about 3 times the amount of money that the government brings in is what they're spending with these initiatives. How long could a couple get by on spending $300,000 a year when they only make $100,000? You could not do that. You wouldn't be allowed to do that. And yet, we are allowing the government to get away with doing this. In my opinion, it's a train wreck waiting to happen. So I want to empower you to protect yourself. How do I protect my money? I use my favorite vehicle, which I call the Laser Fund. Now, LASER is an acronym that I've used for years that stands for Liquid Assets Safely Earning Returns. And the reason why I like the laser fund, because it knocks the socks off of the traditional places where most people put their money in IRAs and 401ks, thinking they're going to be in a lower tax bracket when they retire, and they leave their money in the market. And when we have these recessions, they lose money every time the market dives. This was shown back in the decade 2000 to 2010. So many people who had money, their life's savings in traditional IRAs and 401ks in the market, they saw that nest egg dwindle in value an average of 40% in 2001 to 2003 after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Let's say you spent your entire lifetime accumulating $1 million. People saw that $1 million dwindle down to $600,000. It took 4 years to make back the $400,000 loss, because a 40% loss has to be followed by a 67% gain. See, 600,000 has to grow by 400,000, 67%, to make up for a 40% loss. They felt like they had lost their future. They had to put off retirement 7 years. And then what happened in 2008? For the second time in a decade, they lost 40% again. As Warren Buffett put it, he said, in 2008, when the tide went out, it revealed who was swimming naked, is the way he put it. Yeah, people were not protected. They lost 40% again, and it took until 2012 to come back to break even. People using the laser fund and indexing, a strategy that I've used since 1997, they didn't lose when the market went down. They may not have made very much, but they didn't lose. And at the end of that 12-year period, many of them had doubled and even tripled their money. $1 million was worth $2 million, even $3 million, when most Americans barely had their original million back. And then what happened? Even with nominal rates of inflation, it couldn't buy what $1 million bought 12 years earlier. I want you to link your returns to the things that inflate. I want to make yourself immune from taxes going up, because the laser fund is tax-free. It's been a sacred tax-free cash cow in the Internal Revenue Code for 107 years. Using indexing, you get to participate when the market goes up. But when the market goes down, you don't lose, because your money is not invested in the market. It's linked to that market, but your money is not actually at risk in the market. Is this intriguing you? You can learn more. I would love to have you study and learn from my most recent best-selling book. Now, you can buy the book on Amazon for $20, but I want to gift you a free copy. You go to laserfund.com, click below, and you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling, and I'll cover the rest of that cost, and I'll pay for the book. It's actually 2 books in one. This one is 200 pages, 14 chapters with all the charts and graphs and explanations of how to diversify and create the foundation for a tax-free retirement. But if you learn more by stories, you flip the book over and you read this one, 100 pages, 12 chapters, and this has all kinds of examples and stories of actual people who have earned average rates of return of 6, 8, 10% tax-free for years. Every $1 million can generate $80,000, even $100,000 a year of tax-free income for as long as you live. Would you like to learn how to do that? Get a copy of the book. There's also options there to listen and learn and watch and learn. But go to laserfund.com, and here is to your brighter future.